Welcome back, dweebs, to a bonus edition of the Weekly Dweeb. Happy Friday, everybody. See, normally we're starting our week with you, and this time, as a little bit of a bonus, we get to celebrate the end of the work week together. Got a few stories that I normally would be chatting with James about on Monday, but I figured I would hop in here, hang out with you all for about an hour or so, and talk about what has been going on in our wonderfully weird world of nerd news. What up, Kang? What up, Headbug? What do we got so far in the chat? I just saw a guy on Twitter say women can't appreciate No Country for Old Men. What the hell? Huh? What up, Sleek, by the way? Interestingly enough, I just packed No Country for Old Men into my carry-on because I finally need to finish reading that damn book, but I cannot understand, maybe taking the name of the story a little too literally there, huh? No Country for Old Men or Women of Any Kind. I think that's the sequel. And then some chick said he tried to show his girlfriend Blade Runner and it was a mistake. What? That's some interesting stuff. Gotta love that on Twitter. Headbook says late by 24 hours. Yeah, that was my bad, gang. My bite-sized sports duties ran a little bit long last night, and by the time I was done, wasn't able to squeeze a stream in here as well. But I'm here to hopefully make up for it. Kevin, when is Clout Route? What up, Shadow? First of all, okay. Not 100% set in stone, but the goal is to get a Christmas special Clout Route to all of you before the end of the year. Now, what happens after that, I'm not 100% certain. Don't know how regularly we'll be getting back together. I don't know if it's going to be 4 hours a week like it used to be, damn near 5 hours a week. But we are definitely getting together sometime over the holidays to do a live stream with all of you guys. And as soon as I have a date confirmed, I will share it. Of course, it certainly won't be over the next 7 days, though, because I will be gone. So that's on me. That's a me problem. Ooh, I should read Blood Meridian next. Okay, I have heard some good things about that book. Sleek says, does that mean they can appreciate some Country for Young Men? Kang liked Blade Runner more than her boyfriend. The original or the sequel? Now, speaking of things I love to read, Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep is a favorite of mine. 24 hours twice in a month. Oh yeah, okay. So I've got some problems I need to fix with my stream schedule. Whoopsie. It's a fucked up book. That being Blood Meridian is whack. I had a nightmare about the judge. That's what it was. I think who was it? Maybe Wendigoon? Somebody made a video about the judge. Probably multiple people have made videos about the judge, but I've heard that's just a horrible ass character. Now, welcome again, everybody. Thank you all for hanging out with me. Just me here with you tonight because I'm trying to make up for the fact that James has to do all the heavy lifting by himself next week. Wanted to start with this story right here because if you missed the preview review that went out yesterday or our Monday discussion, you might have missed how wrong we were about this right here. Just as we all expected, guys, this zombie, spoiler alert, in 28 years later, it's exactly who we thought it was. That's right, British art dealer Angus Neal is the zombie, which means maybe spoiler alert again, Maybe Jim's still out there somewhere. I have no idea. Plot twist. Thank God for me personally. I don't really need to see this character in this story anyway. I'm good. So I was really upset at the idea that they would show that in the trailer. I should have known better because this was a very good trailer, but we've been hurt so many times in the past with just horrible decisions and bad editing in trailers that I just fell into the trap. So thank God we're all safe, marked safe from a horrible decision. Watch him still end up being a zombie, but just in a different scene. Sleek, Jesus. Yeah, I guess it does sound like a euphemism when you say that. Apparently, Wendigo did an 8-hour video on the judge. Wow. My God. With the script and everything. Tip of the cap, sir. It was like an analysis of the book as a whole, but the judge is a big part of it. Got it. Okay. I need to put it on my shopping list. I always have more room on the shelves for more books, so that's definitely in there. You mean not every trailer needs a slowed down, super moody cover of a well-known pop song? When is that trend gonna end? I feel like that one's lasted a long time. It's outlasted the Inception one note, the weird brown note, just bah! Remember that? I think you still see it every once in a while, but there was a time there where just every damn trailer, every movie had to do the weird Inception one note thing. And yeah, then we had the old, I like to call it the chopped and screwed pop songs, as Kang mentions. Like, oh my God. Every trailer needs to have the Disturbed covering some 80s pop song. Otherwise, what are we even doing here? House of Leaves. All right. Hey, shout out to the book suggestions. I will take them all day. I'm not through StreamYard tonight, so I won't be able to star them. I'll come back later and check them out. Bring back cheesy voiceovers. Yes. Where are the 90s voiceover trailer guys like they did in Tropic Thunder? In a world full of ice, he's here to melt your heart. Okay, so it won't be me doing the cool voiceover stuff, but you can imagine what it would be like if it was someone good. Disturbed doing Girls Just Want to Have Fun. Okay, so we'll get one horrific and just completely unsightly movie monster off of your screen as we move to our next segment here. We go from one to another. Whoo, boy. Kraven, as you've all been hearing about, I'm sure, not doing super well, or projected to not do super well, right? Is it finally out now? I think that explains why we're getting so many looks at Rhino. This is the week of release, so a couple of real sickos probably went to see it last night. And for the most part, everyone, the public at large, is seeing it today. And if you were wondering how in the world is this movie getting worse ratings than Madam Web, which I don't know if that's justified or not, but you can at least get some idea when looking at the photos of Rhino in this movie. Now, I see a lot of people immediately saying, what did y'all expect Rhino to look like in live action? And I will, I guess, accept that. Kind of a goofy character to do outside of animation. It was either going to be this or some bullshit CGI that I also would have complained about. But damn, when apples to oranges, but when you see some really good makeup, and I mean, they're not prosthetics, but God, you see what Colin Farrell put himself through just to be a fat, bald dude. And then you're thinking, like, this was the best they could do for Rhino? Did this movie just not have a budget again? What is going on? One of the first responses is this photo. The CW could have done better. I don't know about about agreeing to all of that, but it's weird. Like you can see the shit that they glued on the top of his head. Like you can see the cap. It's so bad. I'm not a big fan of this. It's even worse right here. Like, are these supposed to be lines in his skull and not very obviously where they put the makeup and the silicone on? Like it's so obvious where they glued the stuff on top of his face. I I don't want to be a dick about this. To be fair, this is some hard ass work to do. I can't do it. Um, hell, I couldn't do makeup for my own Halloween costume. I think I've done zombie bites one time, and it's a pain in the fucking ass. So I don't mean to be nasty to the people who worked on this, but like it's okay to do a bad job and have somebody say, "All right, that's a good start. Let's continue. Let's put a little more money into this. Let's do something else." But for this to be what makes it into the final cut, like I'm gonna be honest with you, I see if Rhino's in my story and I see this is the best that we can do. We got to be able to swap him out with a different Spidey villain, right? Like there's got to be somebody that we could do that might actually look decent. Man, what a weird little Twilight Zone of cinema the Sony Spider Marvel verse is. It's like just this weird Murphy's Law of just they can't seem to get a single one of these right. Even Venom, which is a character that I love throughout the comics and featured Tom Hardy, who has a pretty solid track record as being a good actor. Like, no interest to me at all. I didn't even watch the one that had Woody Harrelson in it because the trailers were so bad. Like, what are they doing over here? I saw someone put out a tweet that essentially said, "All right, Marvel, it's time to cease and desist Sony." And I tend to agree at this point. Like, can Sony please just quit it? Stop. Tap out. Enough. You're done, bro. You're done. Go home. It's ridiculous. Let's check with chat here for a second. Just because you got to read all the supplemental stuff and the formatting is wild. Okay. Pivoting back to the writing for a second. I will say one of the reasons I think it's been hard for me to finish No Country for Old Men is that writing style, like that sort of complete disregard of the conventional rules. I respect anyone who can do that and win a Pulitzer. Like, hats off to you, man. But the first sentence is such a bad sentence. It drives me nuts. It uses so many ands that if you were sitting there editing, you're just like, wait, are you talking about Shigur or the deputy? And there are other sequences where I think there's one sentence in the first or second chapter where I counted 4 or 5 ands in one long run-on sentence, and I just can't understand like why you couldn't just use some commas and say he did this as this happened instead of boom and boom and boom. Like, I know it's going to be good because I've seen the movie and I trust it, but it's taken me a minute to just like get into a rhythm. And because there are certain sentences you just throw me off. I'm like, why the hell is it? Like, am I reading it wrong? Am I dumb? But no, I dusted it back off, and we'll have plenty of time to sit with it and get used to it. But yeah, it's been an adjustment for sure. Let's see. Yeah, let's demand it with 10,000 fists in the air. Melanie Mack says she is going to see it because someone gave a bad review and mentioned toxic masculinity. Gotta be a pick-me. They took the metal guy from Deadpool and stuck a horn on him. Nice one, Edbug. Kangalop says CW did a better job with the Flash. I've heard that. I feel like I need to watch the CW's Flash. Aaron Taylor Johnson will redeem himself in Nosferatu. Right? I was going to ask, will Kraven be more enjoyable if I just pretend it's a Kick-Ass sequel? Like if I just pretend this is Kick-Ass 3, maybe I'll have a little more fun with it. Sleek wants the professional wrestler Rhino as Rhino. You know, I would have taken that over this for sure. Or I mean, does he still have his long hair? They could have maybe hid the prosthetic horns a little better. Cormac can be a slog for sure, but HOL makes it look like an English professor. Well, that's not totally fair of me to say, but it takes some adjustment. Oh, that is fair. Um, all right, so let me go to our next Kraven tweet. Now, I don't know. I think these numbers may have changed. This one's a few days old, so bear with me. But to speak on the end, right? It's time to tap out the Rotten Tomatoes ratings for these bad boys. Now, Venom, who was it? Was it Kang? Said Venom was slop, but it was still fun at least. Like, I would agree with that on the first one. You know, I watched it. It wasn't what I was hoping it would be. I was hoping it would be more, but it wasn't boring, which is the worst thing that you can be. Unfortunately, it wasn't enough to get me to watch the second one or the third one. I just decided not to come back. And apparently, those two are better. So, joke's on me. I guess I will be putting those on my watch list. But the idea that Kraven, it's still above Morbius on this graphic, but I believe the talks are that it could be as bad or worse than Madam Web. And I just, I'm shocked at anyone's surprised by this, I guess. Like, I could give you Venom as being a pretty decent idea. I think at one point, at least, an incredibly popular comic character. Morbius outside of the memes, like that's just one of the funniest moments in history. The the way that they trolled people into believing, or studios into believing that people liked Morbius. But things like Madam Web, Kraven the Hunter is a pretty cool secondary Spider-Man villain. Maybe I can't remember. There might be a time or two where he's more along the anti-hero line. You know, might occasionally align with the good guys every once in a while, but there's just not enough there for all the characters within Spider-Man, the greater universe that they, I would assume, have access to. I just don't understand why they're trying to make these movies. These seem like, how bad was Batwoman or Batgirl, by the way, if WB just put that one in the incinerator, but these ones get made? Like, you can't tell me Kraven wouldn't have been better off as a tax write-off at this point. I think that the studio might have, and maybe it still will be, who knows. But I just don't know what the demand was for this. You just had to have your own, everybody has to have a cinematic universe. You know, it was cool back in the day when you knew, or when you would learn that Stephen King's books are all kind of connected somehow, or you'd find out again if early Tarantino projects, you know, they'd all have Red Apple cigarettes, and you'd have the Vega brothers being in different stuff. And you'd have these, you know, like, okay, these all exist in the same universe. That's kind of cool. That's fun. And then, of course, we all know what has happened with the MCU, and it has ruined filmmaking in a sense, not completely, mind you. Don't let me get too hot takey over here, but in a sense that now it's what everyone wants to do. It's just a stupid multiverse. First of all, you're way too late. The people who made the multiverse successful are, theirs is dying. All right, they are now reliant on what, like 6-year-old nostalgia to try to get us back. Like, they are in their last gasps as well. Like the MCU, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Robert Downey Jr. and Chris Evans and the Russo brothers pull something out and they reset this bad boy to be successful for another 20 years. But to me, everything we've seen from them over the last few years just screams that they are running out of ideas and they don't really know what to do. DC clearly has never left that stage. Maybe James Gunn will pull them out of it. Again, too little, too late. At this point, you should be looking at where things are going. All right. To quote Kevin Smith, quoting Wayne Gretzky, you don't chase the puck towards the board. You look at where it's going to bounce, and then you head to that spot. What's going to be after cinematic universes? Because people have been failing these forever now. You remember when they were going to do the monsters thing? I was excited at that idea, having the Mummy and Frankenstein and all these old creature feature monsters brought back. Why they needed to share a universe and have their own adventure story is beyond me. You could have, again, just kept these things loosely adjacent, and they don't all need to be so interconnected. I think that's where a lot of these projects go wrong, is they can't just let anything be its own thing. Look at DC again. The only two pieces of successful media, we'll call them three, but it's been the Batman, Joaquin Phoenix's first Joker, and the Penguin, which is tied to the Batman. None of that has anything to do with the greater DC at large universe, and it's for its own benefit. But you can have a shared universe without making everything reliant upon each other. And I mean, this is just maybe the worst example that we have, but I am ready, just like the disturbed covers of pop songs. I'm ready for this trend to end as well. Can we go back to just telling stories that are good, and if they're worth it, maybe let's expand upon it. Or again, if there is an idea that goes across multiple movies, I have no problem with that. But like you should have the idea first, not just, oh, we own this IP. Let's go ahead and use it. But I imagine all the money lost eventually will turn into lessons learned. But let me check out the chat. What up? Stu is here. Hell yeah. It's harder for me to keep up without the whole StreamYard business, so apologies if I miss anybody. I need to make this window larger, I think, but we'll just work with what we got. Tater tots and chocolate milk. Harl says it's going to make $1 quadrillion. I just don't understand why every superhero action movie has to be all quirky and comical all the time now. Can we not just have the gratuitous violence without softening it with a quip? Headbug, that's one of the biggest what-if scenarios that runs through my mind with the DC universe. If they only hadn't panicked at the negative feedback that they were getting because they had Superman all dark, which I don't know that you need a dark, gritty Superman. I think it can have its time and its place. That's where Batman's great. Batman, be a noir detective, do dark, gritty stuff with Batman. Superman's just more of a shining beacon of hope, and Zack Snyder doesn't really know what he's doing when it comes to these types of stories anyway. He's good at one thing, we've talked about it before, and he's really fucking good at it. Taking someone else's images or their ideas and recreating them visually and usually in slow motion. He's very good at that stuff, but when it comes time to putting ideas together, that was not good at all. And that Suicide Squad movie, that sucked. The director, was it Robert Ayers? Not Eggers, okay? Ayers. Released the Ayers cut, I believe. He will argue, maybe not to this day, I don't know, I don't see him on Twitter much anymore, but at the time that the movie that went out was not his movie, that it was something dark, it was gritty, there was way more of Harley and the Joker's relationship and him being a piece, and who's to say if that would have been any good? Just Jared Leto's portrayal of the Joker was a little questionable from what we got. But again, how much of that is influenced by the cut? They brought a music video company to come in and do all those wacky intros and add all the pop music that didn't make sense. And it seemed like they just picked their spots, wrong place, wrong time. Like if they'd let the Suicide Squad be dark and gritty, maybe it would have been successful. Maybe they could have pulled back on that Superman stuff. Whoever wrote Batman vs. Superman, may God have mercy on your soul. The Where's Martha, I think, probably buried that whole thing forever. And then the Joss Whedon cut of the Justice League certainly didn't help anything. But I would agree with that comment in general, Headbug, that one of the things that ruins superhero movies all the time now is their need, their desire to just work in comedic bits in moments when tension should be building, or you should just be in the moment, fully immersed into the action, and somebody's got to fire off a stupid one-liner and break it. It's crazy. Sometimes I can't understand who's making these decisions, because this is, some of the first things they teach you in creative writing. Like it's not overly difficult stuff. I wouldn't imagine. And to back my argument, I would just say a lot of the stories that we like the most don't have a lot of that. It's skillful. I think a lot of people would tell you comedy is probably the hardest thing to write. It's that comedic timing and doing things that will make the majority of the people in the audience laugh. That's a gift that not a lot of people have. And unfortunately, I think too many screenwriters think that they have it. Please keep the Russo brothers from anything, says Kang. Sleek has a cinematic universe. Well, I take back everything I said. I hope yours goes well. Also, fuck Anthony Fantano. I like the Venom song. Oh, from Eminem. Okay, yes. I agree. You know, I normally don't speak ill of other eggs, but, you know, I got to stand with Kang on this one. Headbook says even films like Insidious did it when they connected the four to the first film again. Yeah, no one can get away from it, it seems, anymore. Seeks sounds like someone's jealous they don't have a cinematic universe. You might have got me there. Cut me to the core on that one. Kevin does have a cinematic universe. You've seen all his channels. Yeah. I'm just still mad that M. Night Shyamalan can write a movie about a bald dude named Kevin who does silly voices, and I don't get to see a fucking dime of it. Come on, man. That's not fair. I should have been in Unbreakable too. Kang says we need an extremely violent and gory Spawn movie. Whoo, yeah. I'd take that. I would. That is a story I'd love to see revisited. It would really depend on who is behind it, because, you know, there are other stories. You know, I see which I didn't watch, but I have been told by people that I trust to never watch the remake of The Crow. And so, you know, when you think of like revisiting something that could be that was something that was cool and gritty from that time period, my first thought immediately was like, oh, but it's got to be by somebody who can understand it, because whoever was working on The Crow had no fucking idea. That was awful. Advent agrees. Spawn would be perfect for that. What up, Advent, by the way? Welcome. Kangalop says we also need new Superman to be bright and colorful and hopeful. I need to see Clark Kent bright-eyed and bushy-tailed saving a school bus full of kids and little old ladies and cats from trees. Yeah, see, like, a time and a place. I think you can have your dark, gritty stuff. There are other characters for that. Maybe now would be a good time to just do the wholesome Superman thing for once. It's been a while. Might be a good time just to be able to go and have a nice, fun time at the movies with a superhero that just isn't an anti-hero for once, you know, isn't so troubled, doesn't have this inner darkness that they have to deal with. It was worse when they gave him Batman nipples. I like the stuff with DC Gunn has done, Kang says. What have I seen? I have to think about it that he's been involved in. I really want to watch Creature Commandos. I think that will be good. I don't know how involved he was with the newer Suicide Squad, but that was definitely better than the original. Not a high bar to scale there, but it was still better nonetheless. Sleek says, I took creative writing class. They taught me how to save a cat. Worst class ever. I have that book. Let's see. That's actually, I think that's going to be the other one that makes it into the travel bag. Unbreakable Kevin Schmidt. Yes. Headbug always thought Superman was meant to be the embodiment of America. Pause for the banner. Yeah, maybe that's why he's all dark and gritty and depressed. Postmodern Superman. Kang, I want to see Wholesome Superman again, especially seeing the Christopher Reeve documentary. That's true, too. The time would be good for it, I think. You know, while we're talking about things coming back, and this is going to be the antithesis of this positivity, this beacon that Superman would be, but it does kind of tie in with some of the other things we discussed, like bringing back movies or ideas from the 90s. I would love to know Your thoughts on this one, gang? Austin Butler, most likely known to you from his role as Elvis, is set to star in Luca Guadagnino's, that's an easy one for me to say, new interpretation of the book American Psycho by Bret Easton Ellis. Another author I think worth reading. There's a couple of good ones in there. Less Than Zero, of course. American Psycho. Oh, what's the... Damn it. Is it Laws of Attraction? I can't remember. It was made into a movie with James Vanderbeek, who is actually, talk about again the shared universe. The main character in that movie is actually Patrick Bateman's younger brother. There was a deleted scene that actually talked about that. But yeah, those stories are connected. It's probably an acquired taste, I would say, especially American Psycho. If you have only seen the movie and you are thrown off by those random monologues about Whitney Houston, there are entire chapters of that in the book. So, but a unique writer, definitely, and has some cool stories that have made their way to my bookshelf. I have often wondered this as the movie American Psycho is one that I really liked. To full disclosure, I watched the movie before I ever read the book. It was the movie, and realizing that it was based on a novel, it was what led me down the path of reading Bret Easton Ellis's other work. And the movie isn't one for one reinterpretation of the book. It's pretty damn close. The ending gets a little wonky in the movie, and I wonder when I see that it's going to be an interpretation. So much of what American Psycho was about yuppie culture in the 80s. So I really don't know when they say interpretation, what they mean by that. Are they just going to set the movie in the 80s again, this time with Austin Butler, and again pick and choose sort of what elements from the book and from the previous movie that they emulate? Or are they going to try to set a modern day American Psycho? And if they go that latter route, it's going to be very interesting to me to see sort of what they use. Patrick Bateman in the original is always listening to his Walkman. That will be pretty easy to redo, just having a phone around you all the time. But he also often had to go return some videotapes. I wonder what the equivalent, what's his excuse going to be when he needs to leave a place that doesn't make any sense. There's just going to be a lot about it that will change. I mean, there is a ton about those types, how should I say this, Wall Street types of folks. I don't honestly think a lot about their lives, or at least their lifestyles, the way they view other humans, has changed in the last 30, 40 years. So that part, I don't think they'll have to tweak too much, regardless of how they approach the story. But for my money, I haven't seen Austin Butler do too much, but the way that he portrayed multiple versions of Elvis, I have mixed feelings about that film, but I thought he did a great job. And I think he'll probably fucking kill this role, would be my thought. I just don't know is this going to be one where a great actor puts out a great performance and it doesn't matter because the movie doesn't need to be made, or the story just isn't compelling enough. I'm wondering what they'll do. So let's see what chat has to say. The first thing I see in all caps from Headbug: why do we need it? Okay, so I'm not alone on part of that. Let's see. Also, the OG was directed by a woman, as it should be. Yeah, King, that is a good point, too. I think that this Luca Guadagnino, what is it? I need to look up. He had a very interesting filmography, but there wasn't a ton in there that I had seen that I knew about. The most recent thing he did, I believe, was Challengers. Is that, what's that movie with Zendaya and the two tennis pros? That's the last movie that he made or worked on, or at least that was the most recent one on IMDb when I did my research. So I did think that was another cool element of the first one, as King says, as it should be. It was directed by a woman, and especially considering the subject matter and everything that's going on. I think it's the right person to have at the helm. I don't know much about this guy to know if he will be a good option. So actually, I'm going to pull up his IMDb here and get that back in front of me, because I just don't remember what it was that he had done. Finance bros are a red flag. Look at my crypto profile. I've invested into Hawk 2. A Bateman starts to sweat. And like, we don't really do business cards anymore. Look at the subtle thickness of it. It's it's going to be interesting to see. Oh my goodness. I don't know how this thing is going to... Bones and All is the only film that Kang likes of Luca's. Okay, so we've got one there. All right, that is something. Whoops. Wrong monitor. I'm going to get this pulled up over here. Let me see. It's going to be easy to freaking spell. Luca Guadagnino. There we go. Sorry I had to sound that one out in front of you all. Okay, let's see. You Call Me By Your Name in 2017. Queer 2024. It was, okay, 2018 Suspiria. I remember that one as well. Yeah, just not a ton of stuff outside of what I've just listed that I am familiar with. And I'm just kind of, I'm not super excited. I can't even say I'm cautiously optimistic about this one. I'm just sort of, I always figured this would get remade. I kind of hoped that it wouldn't, again, for the reasons that I've just mentioned. It's sort of a genre piece in its own way. Like, it's about a specific point in time. And I don't know how much of that all translates to now. And Kang did like Suspiria, so Glenn Howerton would have been great. Yes! Yes! How many seasons? I think maybe he was doing his own little tryout for Pat Bateman as as Dennis. Oh my God, he would be. And what is it? Was it the Blackberry movie? I can't remember. He played the bald CEO. There were two guys involved, but he played the asshole guy, and I thought he was phenomenal in that role as well. Like, Glenn Howerton is a lot more than just Dennis Reynolds and just a funny guy that can play a psycho. I really think he could have pulled that off. I agree with you. This proves that none of our cult classics are safe. Yeah, no, I mean, even The Thing wasn't safe. At least they went prequel that route. But man, that thing was hideous. I don't want to talk about that. I've already talked about that this week. We don't need to hear me rant and rave anymore. But there we have it. So we're going to have another American Psycho, and I'm going to pivot back to our wonderful, nerdy comic book universes, because we have an update from Monday. Chris Evans will reportedly be playing Nomad in Avengers Doomsday. Now, I'm going to level with all of you. I didn't remember Nomad from the comics. I had to look this up. This is a character that Steve Rogers played in 4 issues, at least in the very first run. I think maybe he's occasionally brought it back, and other Steve Rogers adjacent characters have played or have taken on the moniker of Nomad. So the story from the comics is, interestingly enough, Captain America grows dissatisfied with the United States due to some of the policies of Richard Nixon. In the comic, Nixon was part of some sort of secret cabal society. He was doing some real shady things. Nothing at all like the real life, mind you. But in the comic, Steve quits being Captain America, and I think it's Hawkeye that tells him, gives him the old Mickey speech, Rocky in the locker room. You can't quit, Steve. You gotta give him hell. You gotta be a nomad. And nomad, which means someone without a country. Bada boom, ching ching. There you go. So Steve Rogers was Nomad for like 4 issues. Then they brought him back. Darth Maul in our Discord, shout out to Maul, had an interesting question when I posted this link in Discord. He said, so the character he played in Infinity War? And that's kind of a good point, right? Like there was a good stretch. Was it Winter Soldier as well when he was on the lam, on the run from the law? He wasn't technically Captain America then. But Infinity War, yeah, he had the gauntlets, which as you look at this little dude here, there are not a ton of even photos of this comic character. You're going to see the same one over and over again. You really got to dive deeply. Not a lot of people have uploaded stills from Nomad comics, believe it or not. But if you remember, he had those big gauntlets on, which kind of is reminiscent here of the big yellow gloves. So I wonder if that is going to be something that, we get. Is this going to be an alternate timeline, Steve Rogers, or is Nomad just the official name for Captain America like it was in the comics when he's not, sponsored by America? And is it going to be? We don't know what happened to Joe Biden, Steve Rogers, as we saw him at the end of Endgame. He did a lot of time hopping. We know he had that dance with Peggy, but at some point he could have done a lot of things. So maybe it'll be that same dude running back. Maybe he'll still have Thor's hammer because he hasn't dropped that off yet. I have no idea what goes on in this universe anymore. But I will take Nomad over Captain America, and I'll certainly take it over him coming back to play a different version of Johnny Storm. I wasn't worried about that, though, since they have the Fantastic Four in production and well on its way. I assumed that was just a one-time Deadpool joke, but you never do know. So Nomad, Chris Evans, Captain Nomad. I don't know why they used this. They could have used the one that I was talking about. You guys know what I'm talking about, right? Oh, now you've lost interest as soon as politics mentioned. We're going to have Marvelize Trump now, are we? Well, I'm not saying it's going to be the same. What I was saying, Headbug, would be that it could have stemmed from, like, the Winter Soldier time. Like, is it going to be something similar? Like, are we going to get that backstory or something like that? Or is it going to be Steve Rogers from a different universe where he's not sponsored by the country? I have no idea. But yeah, what it originally was yeah, definitely it was about the other president who's on the cover of Time magazine all the time. Funny how that works. And that's all I have to say about that. Moving on, let's get back to having some fun here. I've lost interest now with the politics. That is fine. You know what I am incredibly interested in is the extended Matt Reeves Batman universe. And this next one not only gives us some exciting things to look at and talk about for the sequel movie and the series that we've recently been told about, but it also helps me to potentially justify a theory from the Penguin that I've been rattling around. Still owe you guys those last Penguin reviews. I have not forgotten about them, though. We're taking a little different approach. The episode 6 review is almost done. Probably come out when I get back, but those will hopefully be a lot of fun. And then when we're all done, we will do a live stream to just talk about this whole extended Matt Reeves Badverse, because that's going to be, it's just the way I've been very lucky that my slow production time, I've fallen into some good fortune here, because the Scarecrow and Clayface will both be the main villains of the Batman Part 2. Now, for those, spoiler alert for the Penguin, for anyone who hasn't watched it, because I've had a running theory from pretty early in the show that wasn't really confirmed while we were watching it until people went back and found a certain still shot from Dr. Julian Rush's office. We speculated a lot. Would he be some sort of Scarecrow insert? Would he be potentially Dr. Hugo Strange? There's a few different people within Batman's rogues gallery that Julian Rush could have fit into, but There has been a still shot of what looks like Scarecrow's equipment on his desk. I believe it's episode 4. And so the idea that Scarecrow will be in, not only in, but a main villain of the Batman Part 2 leads me to believe that there maybe was something to that. Because Clayface is also getting a series, we hear. The Penguin got a series. I don't know if Scarecrow's going to get one. So will he just come out of nowhere, or will this be something that is set up? Because there are a few moments, and this is why. Spoiler alert! It's not really that big of a secret. I'm just scripting out my last 3 reviews for episode 6, 7, and 8. So some of this you're getting spoiled for our episode 6 review because we talk about it in there. There's a scene after Sophia and Dr. Julian Rush get it on a little bit, where after she's kicking him out and he pouts like the loser weirdo creep that he is, he says, feel free, when you capture Oz, feel free to use my services. And we had seen him use his services with that weird red light to help people get immersed in their memories. Like, it felt very Scarecrow adjacent because they're essentially hallucinating, especially at the end when they have Oz's mother and she is back at the iceberg with her young son, and then she looks across the room and she can see Sophia and Julian Rush there, and they're able to calm her down and get her back into the illusion. So for him to say, feel free to use my services when you catch Oz. And then there's the whole aspect of the Bliss drug. And with that being involved with Arkham, I think there's a really good chance that if Julian Rush is not himself Scarecrow, that he will be working with him, and that will be the character that helps us get introduced to that portion. But I'm clearly very excited about this. Clayface is a character that's been mishandled many a time, I think, but it's an underrated Batman villain, one of my favorites. I think my favorite iteration is the actor, who is already used to, world-renowned actor, already used to being different people, so he had the right mentality for it when he went crazy after becoming Clayface, where he could, perfectly mimic all these people. It's a cool thing. As far as the outlandish, Mr. Freeze-esque man-bat, some of these rogues are not grounded in reality, and Clayface is certainly one of those, but I think it's a villain with a lot of potential. And when you include the fact that the Scarecrow does things to make you hallucinate, maybe there is a way to make Clayface grounded somewhat, because that's the question mark for me, is so much about what the Matt Reeves Batman universe has not been anything Schumacher or Burton-esque. It hasn't been the over-the-top. They've been just real villains. I mean, hell, the Riddler was a fucking 4chan guy or something. I don't, you know what I mean? He's just a nerd, man. Just like Abraham Lincoln. But I'm excited. I'm going to see what chat has to say about this one. Ooh, Sleek, to go back to our last one, Hydra Cap. That was a Captain America comic I thoroughly enjoyed. That takes me way back. Back when Dweeb was an audio-only podcast and we mainly reviewed comics, we reviewed that run of Hydra Cap. That was fun. Headbug says, so we are going to have the Avengers actors but play different or similar characters. Woo. Yep, that's what's coming in the MCU. That's why I'm so excited about the Batman. Harl says, I'm like 5 minutes behind, but Glenn Howerton was also in Crank for a minute. Oh, snap. Okay. Be hella funny if it's just Captain America, Sleek says. Walks on screen and says hello. Walks off screen and cameo. Is that the guy who was close to the Hangman, the doctor who really wanted to help? Yes, yep, Julian Rush. He played, what was it? He was in Sons of Anarchy. I can't remember the character's name. I know he had a mohawk, shaved head. He's a good actor. I like the actor. God, that character is insufferable. He's like a weirdo incel creep who's just obsessed with Sophia. There's just a weird power dynamic like that. Yeah, he's like, are you bored with me already? Jesus Christ, dude, you're such a loser. Anyway, sorry. And she's Catwoman's half-sister. Spoilers, that's right. That is right. I don't know. This is done so well for me. And again, I'm a Batman nerd, so maybe I am oblivious to some of the blind spots. It's not perfect. Not everything about the whole universe has been perfect. I actually, the Batman, it took a while to grow on me. I did not like the movie the first time because I just got annoyed by how often I heard something in the way. I had to go back after knowing that that was going to happen and then watch it again and not be so annoyed. But it took me out of it a lot. And over time, I've come to really appreciate it. And it's one of those things that as you unravel it, it gets better. I mean, I think the Penguin, watching that series and then going back to watch the Batman as part of it, I enjoyed it so much more with the more that is being added to that universe. So again, you can do it right. And some may question how Batman doesn't show up in the Penguin series, and that's a valid question. But on the other hand, based on everything I said before, I actually really liked that. I would have been worried if there had been too many Batman cameos in the show. So I think this is probably, of all the shared universe projects, this is probably the one that I'm the most excited about, at least in the film world. Which Nirvana song do you think they'll put in this one? Lazarus Pit is very realistic. That's a good point, Sleek. Joel Schumacher never made a Batman movie. Who did Batman and Robin and Batman Forever? I can't remember. Who was that? Anyway, Headbug, I love Batman, but this is the only time, minus Heath Ledger, that it feels almost completely right. Yeah, I personally had begged for something like this for years. I remember being working at a sandwich shop in college, just talking with your fellow film student nerds about, like, how has no one done a true to life, like, Batman is the world's greatest detective. Detective noir has been one of the more successful film genres throughout the history of Hollywood. How have we not had someone do a dark, gritty detective noir, but with Batman? Like, how fucking hard would that be? And then we finally got one. And I think that is why initially I was a little disappointed, because it's something that I had personally wanted for so long. And then it didn't exactly fit what I was hoping for. And so it took me a while to appreciate it for what it was instead of being angry at what it wasn't. But I would agree with you there, Headbug. It's outside of that one Nolan film, because I think Batman Begins is just okay. And honestly, Venom saves, or in this case, Bane. Tom Hardy saves that third one for me just because I love doing that voice. You think darkness is your ally? So good. I'll just watch that fight scene. Whenever I feel nostalgic for that movie, I just watch the plane scene from the beginning or the scene where they fight each other in the basement. And that's it. That's the only thing I need from the Dark Knight Returns or whatever. The rest of the movie I can pass. They've got a fist fight war between the cops and Bane's goons. Like, get out of here, dude. Get out of here. Lame. That shit was not cool. Not as good as Batman 2 will hopefully be, but those movies don't exist. I got you, Sleek. I'm picking up what you're laying down. Oh, that is funny. We were talking about a shared cinematic universe that I am excited about, but let's move to the gaming sector for a moment, because this is something that I may have to finally sell that kidney and get a PS5 for this bad boy. Now, this information comes from Shinobi602 on Twitter, and Intergalactic, the heretic prophet, details. So, here are some stills from this bad boy while I read along to you. Over 250 developers have been working on it for the last 4 years. After layoffs, Naughty Dog underwent a restructuring that Neil Druckmann, there's a typo here, that Neil Druckmann would ensure the company could operate as an IP powerhouse, returns to Naughty Dog's roots in action-adventure that started with the studio's reputation with Crash Bandicoot. The story is set in an alternative universe where space travel has been significantly advanced by 1986. So, of course, we can't get off the 80s nostalgia, and I don't care because I'm here for it. Let's see. Play as Jordan Munn, played by Tati Gabrielle, a dangerous bounty hunter who ends up stranded on Semperia, a distant planet whose communication with the outside universe went dark hundreds of years ago. Did they just wait for Skeleton Crew to come out and say, hang on, how mad are they? They're like, wait a minute, this show, it sounds like that game we've been working on for 4 years. Could you imagine? Like, there's no way. There's no way they knew Skeleton Crew was coming. But this is sounding a lot like what old Jad Jarud or whatever Silvo's name is over on Skeleton Crew. Spoiler alert. It will be an emotional, character-driven, epic journey with, quote, the deepest gameplay in Naughty Dog's history, taking our learnings from our previous franchises and pushing them beyond anything we've ever done before. It takes inspiration from classic anime like the 1988 movie Akira and the 1990s series Cowboy Bebop. Now wait for this one. This next part, even better. Scored by Nine Inch Nails artists Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross. Woo! Count me. Are you like, just take my money? I am going to have to sell my home and finally put the money down for a PS5. It's time, guys. I just got to do it. This is finally the game to do it. Get rid of Neil. I hope there wasn't. Get rid of Neil. What else we got here? Let's see. Those movies don't exist. Hopefully it's Sweet Baby approved. There wasn't any plagiarism going on. Drooling right now. Yeah, I cannot wait. Oh, well, I'm going to have to wait. Hopefully it takes them a little while longer to finish making this game so that I can afford it when it comes out. Oh, my goodness. Let's see. That actually includes just get a used one. That's what we have. That's a good point. Yeah, I've thought about just buying whatever the Xbox no disc version is. You know how I feel about not being able to own my media. So I think a used one will be the way to go. Man, that is a pretty exciting piece of gaming content. Also, just to track a story that we've talked about over a couple of weeks that I'm sure James will touch on Monday. I saw that, what is it called? Astrobot won Game of the Year. So we were saved. We were saved from having a DLC win Game of the Year for folks who worry about the awards. I am glad they're not even more of a farce. Let me just say that. Own your media. That's right. Someone create a GoFundMe for Kevin to get a PS5. No, that's okay. You don't have to do any of that. I don't want your money. No, not at all. Not whatsoever. All you have to do is go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Maybe leave a comment. Hit the like button before you leave when the stream ends. And, maybe share it or something. I want to get to a point. Let me take YouTube's advertiser money. I don't want to take your money. At some point, we will definitely open up a Patreon for this channel. There will be a lot of free content on there, though, because I like to do commentary tracks. I like to record my thoughts as I watch stuff, and that is not probably going to do very well on YouTube. So when we get that part rolling, those will be free on our Patreon. It'll just be for anybody who would, for one day, if you're ever bored enough to want to sit and watch, for instance, The Thing, and just hear me fucking talking alongside of it. We'll be doing stuff like that for free. I know we won't even bother opening up a Patreon until we have something to offer for anyone that would actually donate to it. But no, help me get a PS5 by leaving a like, subscribing to the channel, and just turn those notifications on so you can hang out and chat with us while we're on stream. That would be much, much appreciated. But honestly, all of you guys that are here that chat with us regularly, you don't have to do anything different. I appreciate you all so much. It does make it just that much more fun. Honestly, we have such a good chat here that I'm blessed to be able to ramble for an hour to an hour and a half without a co-host, because you guys are so interactive, and it really does make it a lot more fun being up here. So I thank you very much. What does chat have to say? Let us throw money at you. Shut up and take my money. Okay, Jesus Christ. Oh, hell yeah. Uh, Mystery Science Theater 3000, The Thing. Yes, that I would love. Yes, exactly. I want to do that. Honestly, some of these scripted videos that I'm working my way up to, I really want us to do a deep dive on The Thing. And when I say that, I mean not just the movie, which I love very much, but the original short story, which I did not know about originally. You know, it started as just a love of whatever the TV version was on TNT or something. Just as a kid, if for those of you who don't know, The Thing was not profitable early on. It was thought of as a failure. And part of its resurrection was it was cheap, and it just got put on TV a bunch. I was one of the kids who got to watch it in the 90s, fell in love with it. At a certain point, realized it was based on The Thing from Another World, which is another movie I have on DVD. Also very good, but that one does not hold true to the source material, because it was the 50s, I believe. And, you know, so they had to have women involved. There had to be a love interest for the captain, you know, to save and all that stuff. And clearly they didn't do any of the shape-shifting stuff. But the short story that it's based on is so cool, and there are audiobooks that have been done about it. There are a couple of video games that have been done that are really cool, and I just want to have the time to unpack all of that fun lore and share it with all of you, but I want to do it in an organized fashion. And to be honest with myself, I just need to script out more of this content. I'm getting lazy sometimes. I love the live shows. Those won't go anywhere. But sometimes we're all probably a little better when we organize and edit our thoughts. So I just want to bring a higher level of content to all of you. Much more coming. Again, it's going to be all quiet for me probably for about 7 days. You'll probably see me again next Sunday. Will probably be the earliest you would see me. If I get an opportunity to guest hop on a stream from my phone, I may do that. So maybe I'll get to surprise you. But chances are, that'll be all this stuff I'm talking about will most likely be coming to fruition after Christmas, maybe early into the new year. That's when things slow down for me, IRL as well. So should have a little more time while it's still getting dark by 5 o'clock and freezing outside. I should have plenty of time to write and edit more videos for you folks. So I'm very excited about that. And thank you all. I know I'll have a chance to do it again before the end of the year, but it's been a hell of a year for Dweeb and all this other stuff. So all the other projects we got going on. So that is thanks in large part to all of you out there. So one last time, let me see what's going on with chat, and then I will probably get you all out of here and fire away. If you got anything you want to talk about, shoot it over to me in chat. Maybe I could find it on Twitter. Don't have to leave right this second, but to be honest with you all, I've still got a little bit of packing to do before we hit the road. Start a Streamlab so we can throw money at your thing. I have it. I have a Streamlab. Okay, fair. I will try. I was thinking Stream Elements. I was like, oh, I've got Stu. We've got Stewie. But sure, yeah, I'll get something fired up on there. Absolutely. Sleek says a bunch of flat earthers and flat earth debunkers are going to Antarctica this month. I hope they find love and the thing. That is great. We love Kevin. Thank you, Kang. I appreciate that so much. Headbug says, have a great vacation. Safe travels. Yes, thank you, Headbug. You probably getting to be close to bedtime for you. Thank you for hanging out. I'm sorry. All right, my New Year's resolution is to not be full days late on streams anymore, and the least I could do is probably put out an announcement. So I've got my improvements to make for you, but appreciate you. Harl says that 07 packing is the worst. Yeah, it ain't super fun, but it'll be all worth it. So once again, thank you, everyone. I'm actually out this time. I appreciate you all. Tell James I said what's up in the future. I'm sure I'll be talking to him, but no. Make sure you show James some love this week on Monday and or Wednesday. I know he's going to do a hell of a job, and I will catch up with all of you on Skeleton Crew when we get back. Peace. Get a PA. Yes. Come on, Stu. Get it together.